In war on terror, more targeted killings than captures. Some critics say potential intelligence to combat terrorism is being lost. When a window of opportunity opened to strike the leader of Al-Qaeda in East Africa last September, U.S. Special Operations Forces prepared several options. They could obliterate his vehicle with an airstrike as he drove through southern Somalia, or they could fire from helicopters that could land at the scene to confirm the kill, or they could try to take him alive. The White House authorized the second option on the morning of September 14th. Helicopters flying from a U.S. ship off the Somali coast blew up a car carrying the Al-Qaeda leader, while several hovered overhead, one set down long enough for troops to scoop up enough of the remains for DNA verification. Moments later, the helicopters were headed back to the ship. The strike was considered a major success, according to senior administration and military officials. But the opportunity to interrogate one of the most wanted U.S. terrorism targets was gone forever. The decision was one of a number of similar choices the administration has faced over the past year as President Obama has escalated U.S. attacks on the leadership of Al-Qaeda and its allies around the globe. The result has been dozens of targeted killings and no reports of high-value detentions. So in other words, what they are saying is, it's better to kill than capture. Does that make sense? Although senior administration officials say that no policy determination has been made to emphasize kills over captures, several factors appear to have tipped the balance in that direction. The Obama administration has authorized such attacks more frequently than the George W. Bush administration did in its final years, including in countries where U.S. ground operations are officially unwelcome or especially dangerous. Improvements in electronic surveillance and precision targeting have made killing from a distance much more of a sure thing. At the same time, options for where to keep U.S. captives have dwindled. Republican critics, already scornful of limits placed on interrogation of the suspect in the Christmas Day bombing attempt, charge that the administration has been too reluctant to risk an international incident or a domestic lawsuit to capture senior terrorism figures alive and imprison them. Over a year after taking office, the administration has still failed to answer the hard questions about what to do if we have the opportunity to capture and detain a terrorist overseas, which has made our terror fighters reluctant to capture and left our allies confused. Senator Christopher Esteban, the ranking Republican on the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, said, "If given a choice between killing or capturing, we would probably kill." Again, how much sense does that make? Some military and intelligence officials, citing what they see as a new bias toward kills or just plain killing, questioned whether valuable intelligence is being lost in the process. "We wanted to take a prisoner," a senior military officer said of the Somali operation. "It was not a decision that we made. Even during the last administration, there was an inclination to just shoot the bastard," said a former intelligence official briefed on current operations. But now there's even a greater reason for doing it that way. We need to have the capability to snatch when the situation calls for it. Lack of detention policy. One problem identified by those within and outside the government is the question of where to take captives apprehended outside established war zones and cooperating countries. We've been trying to decide this for over a year, the senior military officer said. When you don't have a detention policy or a set of faculties, he said, operational decisions become much more difficult. The Obama administration has pledged to close the military prison at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. Congress has resisted moving any of the approximately 190 detainees remaining there, let alone terrorism suspects who have been recently captured to this country. All of the CIA's former black site prisons have been shut down, and a U.S. official involved in operations planning confirmed that the agency has no terrorism suspects in its custody officially. Although the CIA retains the right to briefly retain terrorism suspects, any detainees would be quickly transferred to a military prison or an allied government with jurisdiction over the case, the official said. Military officials emphasized that terrorism suspects continue to be captured in Iraq and Afghanistan, but in Iraq, where counter-terrorism operations must be approved and advanced by its government and conducted with Iraqi forces in the lead, all prisoners must be turned over to Baghdad. In Afghanistan, the massive U.S.-run prison at the Bagram Air Base is scheduled to be relinquished to the Afghan government by the end of the year. Its 750 prisoners include some 30 foreigners, some of them captured in other countries and brought there. But recent legal decisions and Afghan government restrictions have largely eliminated that option. In some cases, the senior military official said, captives in Afghanistan have been taken to other faculties maintained by special operations forces. Such detentions, even on a temporary basis, have become more difficult because of legal and human rights concerns, he said. Outside the established war zones, senior administration and military officials said how an operation is conducted and whether its goal is killing or capturing depend on where it is taking place and which U.S. agency is involved. Al-Qaeda and Taliban havens in Pakistan's federally administrated tribal areas along the border are considered part of the Afghanistan war theater, as perhaps as many more areas. The Pakistani government permits CIA-operated unmanned aircraft to target terrorist sites and insurgents or militants up to 50 miles inside the country, officially. Under an executive order first signed by BUSH and continued in force under Obama, the CIA does not have to seek higher administration authority before striking. Beyond Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Iraq, potentially lethal operations must be approved by Obama or his designee, which can include the CIA Director and the Defense Secretary. In Yemen, stepped up military and intelligence cooperation with the country's government, including the use of U.S. aircraft and munitions for raids against a list of targets suspected of involvement with terrorist groups, was approved by Obama late last year, and at least 2 lethal attacks officially have taken place in coordination with Yemeni ground forces. Any captives belong to Yemen. Somalia poses unique problems. In the vast majority of the country, there is no functioning government to approve or coordinate operations, or to take custody or captives. The Somalia calculus, several officials said, included weighing the likelihood that U.S. troops on the ground for any amount of time in the militia-controlled South would be particularly vulnerable to attack. Yes, that could happen too. And again, is it better to kill or capture? And these are more signs of the end times transition days. The transition is a continuing, ongoing process happening daily all around the world. And there are many signs.